Sell it, baby. Finna get right. Here we go. Yeah, listen. I ain't really trying to hold too much pride. Feeling like Michael, how I beat those odds. Yeah.
Welcome to Unapologetically Divorced, where we do not just talk about relationships here. We talk about releasing the weight of everything in your life that is holding you back. And today we have a super phenomenal guest with us today, Tesaun. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Great, wonderful, blessed. I am just so ecstatic to have you as a guest on our podcast today. And it's just amazing to get to just be inspired and just meet people. And I love your name. Tell us about yourself and who are you?
Yes, well, first, Brittany, thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited to be featured on your podcast. My name is Tesaun Moore. I am an author, public speaker, and I motivate people to tell their authentic stories, so that we can all connect and relate because it's so needed in this time.
Yes, I love that authenticity. And for myself in that field of mental health, that is something that I do a lot of work with people is showing them how to really be authentic and be yourself. And it's hard for so many people. And I realize a lot of people struggle with that because of their childhood. They weren't allowed to speak, they weren't allowed to really just be themselves. And so when you think about doing that work and helping people, tell us about what got you into that space to just really help people to be authentic.
Oh my goodness. I was one of those people who felt like they had to live up to a certain standard, who felt the pressures of, outside influences, but really not following my own path and really not going to the beat of my own drum. What's that saying? Walk to the beat of your own drum. And then when I finally broke away from that restraint, right? I found a newfound freedom and, confidence. And I wanted to encourage other people to do the same thing because it can be so debilitating. But when you find your freedom, it just leads you to a whole new vibration.
Wow. Yes. And so was that something that was really, really hard for you mentally, would you say? Or what helped you to really say, I need to really break away from this?
Having a strong foundation in faith. I was raised in the church. So, of course, when you're raised in a church, oftentimes the key thing that is your foundation is, where does my strength comes from? Where does my help come from?
Yeah.
And so when trying to unlearn those negative um, things, right? I had to go back to the maker. I had to go back to the source. And then he had to
That's
show
right.
who I was so that I could do those things. So
Mhm.
mental health was a big part in it. And then being very self-aware um, was really the key to me evolving in that space.
And that's key. So was that something that you started doing yourself, is going to therapy and really taking care of your mental health as well?
Absolutely. I was journaling. I started blogging and vlogging, right? And I was journaling, and led to me writing my first book. And then after that, it was just
Yeah.
therapy and a lot of self-talk, meditation, all of those key things to go on within so that I could be the person that I wanted to be for me.
Oh man, that's beautiful and that's remarkable. And who would you say was like your strong support? Like, did you have friends you leaned on? Who was there to really uphold you when you're really trying to discover yourself?
Yes. So, my aunts, I had some family members who were really key to being good sounding boards because you need those, right? I had
Yes.
friends who were, good support systems. You got to have them A1 day ones. And really, I would say during that time was my unborn child, was my son. I kept thinking about what kind of mother do I want my son to see? Who do I want to be as a mother? And I can't show up this way because it's not going to be healthy and it's not going to be good for him. So putting him first, it was like a game changer.
Yes. And I hear so many mothers, they talk about that, of how your children give you that inspiration to keep going on your worst days. Like I'll never forget, even for myself, when at one point being in such a dark space, and my children really just being that light, just helping me, because we don't get off days. We gotta get up, we gotta keep going every day, stick it off.
Okay. Be like, ooh, I ain't feel it.
Right, exactly. Until we lay down, we're like, okay, thank the Lord, we made it through the day.
Yes, super
And
woman.
just people don't understand it's different now, raising children and just trying to be that best version of ourselves. But you said some key points here, how we have to do the work to take care of ourselves, make sure we're in a good space, because our children are going to see that and that's going to reflect on them. And so if we're always, screaming or yelling, or we're not happy with ourselves, then that's going to make them feel like, okay, what's wrong with her? She's always like that, or that's just how she is.
Right, right. It's funny. I saw a clip of a young lady. She had to be no more than, I'll say, 8. I think she's younger than 8. But her poem was, I don't understand my parents. And it was
Mm.
so cute because she was going through all of the things that she was like, I don't understand when I'm playing. You turn around and you tell me to be quiet. She's like, I don't understand my parents. Like, it was so cute. And it's right. Like, you start yelling at your kids and they're like, I'm just being a kid. And it's
Right, literally.
yes, and it's like due to the trauma, right, that we did, that we got that, so then we pass it on, and it's like when you unlearn, when
Right.
you make it an executive decision to unlearn those things and do parenting a different way than what you've experienced, it's a difficult, battle. I'll say, call it a battle, but really, it's because you've never seen it before, and so when people see you doing that,
Right.
it's foreign to them. But you're like, listen, I'm intentional with mine. You do what you want over there, but this is what
Right.
we do.
That's a really good point. You reminded me when I first started teaching education, I'm like at this school, and I'll never forget the admin team who was like, well, one of the principals at the time, he was like, when I walk by your classroom, I don't want to hear any noise. Like everybody should be quiet. And mind you, this is what, 7th grade. So I'm like, my first year teaching, how am I supposed to make a whole class be quiet? But then I realized that's incorrect, because if I'm teaching them, they should be talking. They should be sharing what they're learning and helping each other, expand on the knowledge that I'm teaching them. So I was like, that's incorrect, sir.
Right? Be like, I got my classroom, sir.
Right. And then who wants to add that on top of everything else that you already dealing with inside the classroom? Because you already like, hey, everybody.
Right. Come to order. I remember what I was like in 7th grade. So, honey.
That's the one grade I was like, I don't know what happens. It is something about our baby girls, because I'm like, I noticed like the boys, they would get into it and then that's it. They just stay away from each other. But the girls, they get into it. They done drag their friends into it. Now it's going into the new year, the new semester. You're like, what in the world? And why are you mad at her? I don't know, because she told me not to be friends with her. And I don't like the way she looked at me.
Oh, girl. That's when we learned cattiness, unfortunately. That was the birth of the catty.
Just so much. But being authentic, if we could take that back to, as they say, your childhood growing up, because I know we talked about it from the aspect of having to be quiet, but there's another side of it when you are able to be free and be yourself. But somewhere along the lines that gets lost. You forget that at one point you were vibrant, you had your voice, you were able to just be you, you could play and didn't care, about what the people were going to say or think or do, and all of that. And how do you encourage people to really truly tap into their inner child and really be free, be yourself?
That is such a good question. And I had to do this, we call it a rediscovery journey, right? Where you're trying to figure
Yeah.
out who you are now. But you have to go back and take a look at who you once were. Because let's go back to seventh grade as the example, since that's where we're at. What were you doing that brought you so much joy and you just did it effortlessly? So for me, I loved
Right.
the arts. I loved writing. I would write little haikus and poems in class. I would dance, I would sing, I was in theater, and all of those things made me so happy when I was a little girl. And so what I did
Mhm.
was I started going back to those things, revisiting the little girl inside who had once been vibrant, but then life started happening and she started learning what life or traumas can do to silence her, and I wanted to give her her voice back. And so again, it led me to writing, which is how I came about to write and publish my first book, Bear It All.
Oh my goodness, that is so beautiful. That reminds me of myself. I used to do a lot of poetry. That was my outlet out of the pain because it's like that's the one thing I feel like no one could take that from me. I can write and I can create this illusion of my own reality without having to share it or allow me to escape the moment, although I was still very present in the moment.
Yeah. But
So I
revisiting.
love that.
Yeah. And so that's how I
Right.
would teach people is or tell people to do is go back to the person that you once were, that you remember yourself to be, that top childlike self. And remember who you were then and tap into that to give perspective into who you are now. And that's what I would do.
I love that. And that's going to help a person to really get back reconnected with themselves. Because a lot of times you forget yourself. You don't know who you are. I talk to so many women who are going through so many different transitions in their lives and men. And that's one of the things. They have literally lost themselves because now they're at a place of having an identity crisis. And so with your book that you have written, how do you help people to overcome some of those self-limiting beliefs or those fears that they have?
Yes. So what I do is public events. So next month I will be hosting my first event. It's Wind Down Wednesday because as moms going back to motherhood, right? Yeah, going back to motherhood, right? We have two jobs every day, nonstop, and that's our 9 to 5 and our 5 to 9 or whatever time them kids go to bed. And that includes cooking
Right.
and cleaning, and it's literally nonstop. So I wanted to provide just an hour and a half for women in my community to come together, have dinner, and just sit around and talk, because our grandmothers got that opportunity when they were going to Bible class and church every Wednesday and Thursday and Friday or whatever their schedule was. But they had the community that we don't have, unfortunately, in this time. And yes, some people are a part of groups and clubs and stuff. That doesn't take away from that. But what about the communities that come to the core of women? We need those in every aspect. So that's what I do. I host events where women can come and rediscover who they are and build solid
Yes.
relationships and network.
And that's amazing because you're right. So many people, they are missing those networks. And that is one thing that I mentioned to a lot of my clients. I'm like, you need to get connected to a community. Start with an interest. If you like to run, find a running club, do something. And I think that's the fear for so many. It's like, where do I go? And I'm like, you're on social media all the time. Utilize it.
Find some ticket and stick to
Right.
it.
Right. And I was like, okay. And the ones that actually do it, they feel so much better because now they're around other people with like mindedness. And that's what it's all about. As an entrepreneur, we have to be around other people with a like mind as well. Because if not, you're going to lose yourself. Because here you are thinking, like, okay, what's the next idea? What do I got to do? And, some people are like, would you give that up already?
Be like, no, you don't see the
Right.
design.
Exactly. But then we learn that it's different, from generation to generation. Sometimes like our parents or our grandparents, they had to do what they had to do. And it's like now we have so many opportunities. And I think that's why a lot of our youth are so confused on what do I do? Because now I can make money on YouTube. I can just literally go get a trade and I can make great money. And so it's really about finding your purpose and your passion and going for it. And if it's something, if you fail at one thing, keep trying. Don't give up.
Yes. And the fear of failure eradicate what's divorce. Isn't that one of your topics?
Yeah.
Divorce the fear of failure.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that's a weight that we have to let go. And so
Yeah.
many people don't realize all the weight that they're holding on. And that weight gets so heavy, especially when you start people pleasing. Like when you were saying that about being authentic, then that means in order to be authentic, you're going to have to step on some people's toes sometimes and not people please.
Right. Absolutely. And that's difficult. It's difficult to unlearn that. I know as a recovering people pleaser, it's difficult to learn, but it's
Myself too.
important. It's important and necessary.
It is. But you start learning to stop doing that when you are always available for everybody. But it only take a couple times when you need something and you be like, I don't ask for help much. And can't nobody answer your call and can't nobody help you. That's tough. I don't know what you gotta do.
Yes. Yes. Ooh, what they say, surround yourself with people who are at your level and higher.
Girl, that's a whole nother story right there.
She's like, listen, we ain't even gonna get off into that.
Oh my gosh. But it's something up to be said about that because if you surround yourself with people on your level or higher, you can't help but go up.
There you go.
Like, right. Because we don't have time to be going backwards. We've been there, done that. But
Yeah.
also, it's truth to be said because I was having a conversation with someone the other day and they were talking about when people reach a certain level, they need to make sure that they don't forget where they came from and go back and help people. And I said, that is very true. We can't get so high and mighty or think that we can't help people or forget that we were once there. We were once that person who needed that help and guidance. But I think it's important also to know we can't save everybody either.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a hard one. That's a hard one because your heart, it pulls at your heart when you love somebody or when you see the potential in somebody. And it's like, but I can't want that for you. You have to want it for yourself. And then
Yes.
that's setting the boundary. Listen, when I tell you I dug deep, honey, that's when you set the boundary of self-worth, right? And self-love,
Right.
because you will drive yourself crazy trying to help somebody else see their potential and push them in
Right.
the right direction.
And I think it's fair to say that we've all been there at some point in our life where we are like being that person's biggest cheerleader, but we're not even that big of a cheerleader to ourselves. And that's where the problem hits home. It's like, dang, I done poured in all this time into this person. They don't even appreciate it. Have the audacity to turn around on you.
Listen, honey. The stories I could tell.
Right. That's what we need to talk about on the Wind Down Wednesdays. Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Man, that reminds me. I remember at one point this would have been like during COVID, and I was looking on Facebook on this one group, and they were talking about like, hey, women, let's be honest, tell a story or funny something that has happened to you in a relationship or dating. And the comments were just absurd. Like people were saying all kind of things from, hey, he took my car. Or hey, I asked him to go get me something to eat, and he just took money out the side of the door to go eat. You're like, wait a minute. So you over here like, thank you so much, and then you like, wait, I know I had some money of it. Like what?
Like what? What happened to my? Excuse me.
just interesting. And it's like we have to start waking up and being more aware. It was like almost 1,000 comments on there because it was just so much that women have gone through. And we know men go through things too. But at some point we have to set better boundaries. We have to be aware. I was talking to someone earlier today who talked about the red flags. And they were saying, how do we even know the red flags if we were born in dysfunction? And all these things, we don't. That flag is not red, right?
Honey, listen, it's yellow, and you don't even be listening. You be speeding up when you see the yellow light come on. Talking about, we just gonna get there. We just gonna no, you can't change that, man, boo boo. But it's so funny that you brought that up because okay, so in my novel Bear It All, right? It's a story about a woman's journey to motherhood.
Mhm.
And when you become a mom, when you find out that you're pregnant, your whole world gets flipped upside
It
down
does. That's right.
because you immediately start thinking about the responsibility, start thinking about the possibilities of what kind of baby will it be, a boy or a girl. Okay,
Right.
then you start looking at yourself and your situation. Okay, well, how am I going to make this work? How am I going to care for this child?
Right.
And when we talk about relationships, you see now more than ever that, well, I see the paradigm shift in people focusing more on working on themselves before getting
Mhm.
into relationships. And I will say that I'm very proud of to see that in the Black community, in our community. um Very much so now. But in my book I basically talk about how a woman journeys goes through the journey of rediscover self-discovery, rediscovering, and then
Mhm.
transformation, and the
Yeah.
hardship within relationships, whether it be with your partner, whether it be with your family, and in
Mhm.
yourself. And it's just a beautiful story. Anybody who gets the book will enjoy the read because it's such a beautiful story of transformation, self-love, and a whole new beginning. And then also just the joy and the precious experience of becoming a mom.
Yes. And you've just said a whole lot of great points there because we skip that stage. We literally go from, I can't wait to get out this house
Honey.
to, for some they go off to college, some go off to the military. And then it's like you're there to do your schooling, but then you meet people and then you're like, next thing you know, and
Yep.
we don't take the time to get to know ourselves, and that's not taught to us within our community, that it's important to know your worth, know your value. Who are you? What do you like to do? And so if you take that however your childhood was, and you might not even knew it was dysfunctional, and so here you are, you haven't done any work on yourself. You think everything, you're ethnocentric in your view because you think everything's supposed to be the way that it was for you, until you get in college and you start meeting people and you realize, wow, like, everything's not the way it was for me.
Yes. Yes. Oh, can I tell you a quick story real quick?
Yes, go ahead, girl.
So, in the South, colorism is a thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really all over. But it is really big in the South, I will say. Um, but growing up, I didn't know what my family meant by they said that I was color struck. So there
Mm-hmm.
was a time where they took me to a black Santa Claus, and I cried like red face, tears flowing, crying because I was in a black Santa Claus's arms. And I remember in college, um, this is really embarrassing. So this is a really sensitive that I said this. No, because I see where the flaw was.
Right.
So there was a young lady, she was red bone, pretty tall, thick. Okay, but girl was bad.
Okay.
And I said, I wish I looked more like you because
Yeah.
men are more attracted to women who look like you.
Right.
And she
At
was
least
like,
that's what we've been told.
right. And that's what we've been shown in the media, music videos, TV
Right.
shows. I mean, it's all been programming, right? And
Right.
so where I was coming from, it was an authentic place. It was what I had experienced in the area that I grew up in. Well, she looked at me like she was disgusted with my viewpoint or what I had said. And she was like,
Mhm.
that's self-hate, that's self-degradation. And I
Mhm.
said, I mean, I get that, but that's literally like
But I've been tired. That's all I know.
that's what I know. Yeah. And so she stopped talking to me, all like she distanced herself from me because I didn't know I didn't understand the trauma that I had experienced, and I didn't understand the complexities of that. And
Right.
it was so when we talk about going to college and you hear, people's different viewpoints and perspectives, it can take you aback because you're like, well, I didn't know what I didn't know. And I,
Exactly.
and not only did I not know that, what I believed or what I thought was so wrong, or self-hatred, which was her point, but I didn't realize that people would be willing to not associate based
Right.
off of what you didn't know. Like, we were whole friends at this point, but well, no longer. But college days, you learn so much about yourself in the world, and the world that's bigger than just your four walls. And I'll,
Yes.
and it teaches you a lot.
It does, it does. And also like from the mental health perspective, hearing what you just shared, that just means that something might have been said to her before, where maybe going to school is like, oh, you think you're better than people, or who knows what people have said. And so there are some other things that are underlying. So when you said that, it took her back to that, which we call that transference in the counseling world, because it's like they are projecting their own thoughts and views and opinions or feelings onto you when you didn't have anything really to do with it. It's because of you reminded them of the person who first inflicted that pain on them.
Wow.
Deep.
Yes.
Deep in that.
You just gave me a perspective that, so I'm 34 now. That might have happened when I was like 18, 19. And I never considered that perspective from that situation. Wow.
Right. Right, because think about it. Surfacely, we're like that. We could have still been friends. You taught me, I taught you what I knew. Like that's it. Like let's keep moving forward. But in
Right.
her mind, she wasn't able to, because in her mind, she's still hearing whatever was said to her,
Mm-hmm.
years ago. And that's why it's so important for us to work on ourselves and do the work and know, like, okay, this person might have said this, but I just because they said it don't make it true.
Right. Right. Right.
But we get so caught in our head, like this person said, like, for example, they might be like, this person said I'm ugly. Do you believe that you're ugly? Well,
Right.
then you know.
Like, what do you think about you?
Right. And that's what matters more than what other people say. Because people, as we've learned being on this earth, people gonna always have something to say. It don't matter.
You could be doing bad or doing good. Somebody gonna have something to say about
Yes,
it.
yes. I'll never forget when I used to teach in the classroom, and the students would be like, "I guess you had a bad hair day, or you must have missed your last appointment." You'd be like, "Excuse me," like
Right.
the audacity. Okay,
Was these kids? You said these was kids?
yeah, they will take you there. You like, I'm trying to teach you your basic math skills, and
Listen, these kids are treacherous, especially middle schoolers. So hats off to you. But child.
they will get you right, honey. And that's why I was like, when you said being a speaker, when we get up and speak, it's something about before we get on stage, we're like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, shoot, we can talk and okay, people will get us right and tell us the real, then we can definitely get up here and share our story and let people know and connect with us.
Absolutely.
That reminds me, one time I was going to speak, and this lady, she was like, "Are you nervous, or how you feeling?" I was like, "I'm nervous." She was like, "Well, you telling the truth?" And I was like, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Well, okay then, get up there and." That's all I need to hear. I was good. I was like, "Okay, I got this."
Yeah. I love that. Look, I think like I was telling somebody, I said I have to use my nerves, the butterflies in my stomach, to push me onto the stage. Like they literally have to drag me onto the stage, and I have to like That's how I psych myself out of being nervous.
Hey, because once it's showtime, it's showtime. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Well, as we prepare to come to a close, what would you say is your favorite quote or scripture that you would love to leave with our audience today?
Oh my gosh. So the slogan for uh Slumber Me Not is believe in yourself, don't let them sleep on you. That's what I have on my sweatshirts, on my hoodie. I should have my hoodie on, not my hoodie, my hat on right now. But there are so many. God gives us visions and dreams, whatever you believe in, whatever source, whatever your belief system is, that gives you the courage to keep going, also gives you the pathway in which your purpose. It shows you what your purpose is. And it's up to you to wake up to it and
That's
fall
right.
asleep to it, but always wake up to it and pursue it relentlessly. And a lot of times we have these gifts and these passions and these purposes that people might not see in us. They might not believe that you can do it. But the thing is, you can't let them sleep on you, because
That's
you
right.
have to get it done. In my talk, I said it's in you and it's on you. And
That's right.
every day we got to wake up to it.
That's right. I love that so much. And you're right. And we have to work at it. No one's going to say, hey, did you work on your passion or your purpose today? Hey, did you make things happen? Nobody's going to do that. And that's why you have to have that drive and you have to surround yourself with people who want it just as bad as you want it. Because then that's when we motivate each other. And so, what does that look like? How can people contact you and work with you?
Absolutely. So you can right now contact me on social media. My social media is Tesaun Smith. It's down there at the bottom. I'm on Instagram. I'm on YouTube. I'm working on a couple of things. So y'all definitely be able to get some emails and subscribe to my monthly newsletter. But for right now, my social media is the way to get in contact with me and follow this journey.
Yes. And then is that how they can stay in contact with you about events and the Wind Down Wednesdays and all of that?
Yes, all of the it will be on flyers and reels and on my weekly videos that I upload to YouTube. So yes, all of that information will be there.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you again. We're just so excited. What are some final words you would love to leave with our listeners for today?
I just want to tell you thank you so much for creating this platform. Thank you for being obedient to your purpose. And I can't wait to work with you further. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that about being obedient because you're right. It is hard to be obedient sometimes when I had to really like switch the direction of my podcast and after going through my own life challenges.
Yeah.
And it's just been a blessing. Like God has opened up so many doors and I just know the listeners that are here and listening today, they're going to be so inspired. They're going to be like, wow, what can I do to connect? And that's what it's all about, is spreading the word, letting people know what we do, because if there is no podcast and we're not telling people about what we're doing, how do people know we even exist?
Right.
Yeah, you have social media, but this also is another avenue for us to spread the word and let people know and connect with us on a different level so they can say, yeah, I want to work with them. Yes.
Amen.
Well, thank you so much, Tesaun, for joining us and being with us. And we will definitely look forward to having you on future episodes.
Thank you.
Yeah, Stella, baby. Finna get right. Here we go.